Any conversation we have, he pick anger. He's always angry at me all the time. He keeps late night, and when I ask, he would start beating me.
Manta an ka samu ta mun baya ma garin da mun baya ma asibiti ta sai na aji akan matsala ta wahala ta min yawa na kwanda ina na kura ina ganin wahala.
Problems of gender-based violence in the country at large is the inability for us to prosecute perpetrators of any form of violence depend on the incidence code.
You know, people then used to think, well, if we do this, you cannot prove anything in court. But now, with this, once we collect the sample, whoever in the society should commit that, the forensic analysis will definitely be able to identify them.
Once the number is dialed, the whole referral pathway, the whole system, the response is activated, and survivors are able to access help. Survivors of sexual violence are able to access information as to what to do immediately the sexual violence has occurred, where to go to access help.
We were looking at providing every services that is needed by survivors of gender-based violence. You can get them here.
Manta an ka samu ta mun baya ma garin da mun baya ma asibiti ta sai na aji akan matsala ta wahala ta min yawa na kwanda ina na kura ina ganin wahala. Tsananin wahala abinda a ciki ya wahala ni kuma na wahala ko da an ka zo asibiti.
Bayan mun zama asibiti sai an ka sallame mu. Da aka sallame mu an ka cire roba sai dai na ga hitsari na zuba. Hitsari ya zuba sai dai na kama kuka ni ce ban zuwa gida. Uwayena sun ka bani hankuri sun ka ce mu tafi gida in hankuri da kaddarowa Allah.
Yan to sai mijina ya zaka ganna ya zaka ta biya ta ganna ko da ya zaka sai ya iske ni ina cikin matsalan nan. Shikenan ya koma gida sai ya komo gani na bi sai ya rubuta takarda ya bani wai dan saboda matsalar yoyin tsarin gara na samu. Sai ni kan kuka ni kuka uwa ta kuka yanna na kuka masoya kuka. Shikenan sai an kace da sai ina cikin daki ban ci abinci ban ci ban sha ina kuka matsalar yoyin tsarin nan da ya same ni.
Any conversation we have, he pick anger. He's always angry at me all the time. He keeps late night, and when I ask, he would start beating me. And feeding is a problem for us. He emphasized of being that me, I'm an orphan, I don't have a place to go, that he can do anything to me. Even when I complain to the parents, they are always on his side. Always thinking that he will even change, but he continued. He continued for 8 years. I couldn't bear it anymore. Then I decided to leave, and I said, even if it will take me to sleep under a flyover, I will do that.
What did not have point will cause a quarrel between me and him, started beating me, bruises on my face. Sometimes I will go to police station. They can't do anything. They will say it's husband and wife matter.
These are married women that are in their homes, and then they get pregnant, and then along the line of delivery, they have obstructive labor, and then or delayed, and then they are not taken to the hospital as early as they are supposed to do. And then they face this challenge of passing urine. And passing urine or stool is the major problem that we call fistula. Everybody will run away from you because of the smell. Even your husband, some of them will be on the hospital bed when their husband will say, I have divorced you.
The Spotlight Initiative was a major grant that the European Union gave to the United Nations to underpin the work we can do together when we work as one in the United Nations. And the UNFPA's mandate has a big role to play in Spotlight. The purpose of Spotlight was really literally to put spotlight on the fact that gender-based violence is a major challenge globally. And then they selected countries where the challenges were maybe bigger or appeared to be bigger than in others, and Nigeria was one of those countries. One of the things that we are working on is to end fistula, and Nigeria has the world's biggest caseload of fistula cases. currently estimated to be 332,000. Every year we add a minimum of 10,000 to that. Part of that is, of course, that comes back to the other goals. It's about women simply not having access to safe deliveries. But it also comes back to, and that's a harmful practice, child marriages. So in Sokoto, we've established a fistula repair center, which is really excellent.
Sai an kasa sanarwa cikin gidan rediyo an ce akwai wata asibiti wadda aka ce Maryam Abacha ana magani ana aikin wagga matsala amma ba a bara ko ya 50 kun magani ana ba dai shi kyauta ana aiki kyauta abinci kyauta
da an kai min aiki kyauta abinci kyauta an ka ba mu kuɗin mota da hijabi sai dai an ka sallame mu an ka sati biyu da roba sai dai an ka sallame mu fitsari na shi kenan ya tsaya kuma na ji sauki kwarai na gode.
Collaboration with the UN Spotlight Initiative in this facility. Over the last 3 years, 2019, 2020 and 2021, a total of 375 fistula patients have been repaired in the center, close and dry, of a success rate of 88%. And also there are rehabilitation of fistula patients, survivors in general after the repair.
And it's also about ensuring that women are not the ones being left behind. And women living in fistula are the ones most at risk of being left behind. They are marginalized and stigmatized. And for a project like this that enables us, together with the communities and state governments, to bring women back into their communities.
In Lagos State, we believe in the multidisciplinary approach of providing services. So every responder that you can think of that provides one service or the other to survivors is ably represented on the team, which has now transitioned into an agency. UNFPA is a donor partner that we initiated a collaboration and partnership during the COVID-19 pandemic. That was the first time we had engagement with UNFPA. Subsequently, we were able to pitch the idea of establishing a gender-based violence referral service, which would offer 24/7 services to survivors of domestic and sexual violence, leveraging on a toll-free number that residents of Lagos can take advantage of. And UNFPA assisted us from establishing the agency, procuring items, payment of the staff that would work in that in the center, and of course other ancillary supports were made available.
We are implementing the one-stop center here in Adamawa State, where we provide coordinated multidisciplinary services to survivors of gender-based violence, sexual and gender-based violence, and harmful practices in the state. So we provide counseling service, we provide shelter. Now we understand that some survivors have a hard time finding alternative care placements where they could stay for the meantime while we provide the service. So we have alternative care placement or shelter here for survivors of sexual and gender-based violence.
Before now, women don't really have where to go. Even when you have this issue of sexual and gender-based violence, you see women, they remain in that home where they're facing harm. But now with the inception of Spotlight, we've sensitized women that will have social support system where they can go to, where they can, this home is not just moving away, they stay there as a transition home where they can make informed decision what next happens to their life.
They connected me to the Women Affairs organization, that they have a place for me. So since I came here, I was not even looking this sand. When I came here, I was really looking bad, but God gave me a family here. When I meet with people here, they were so nice to me, they encouraged me in different ways, they impact my life.
The aim of the maternity waiting home is to eliminate all the 3 delays. Delay in taking decision to get to the hospital for delivery, delay in transporting the affected woman to the health facility, and then finally delay in healthcare workers taking necessary action to avert the complications that will result in the death of the woman or the death of baby to be born.
So when they come here, we admit them, we treat them based on diagnosis, we issue them with food, they cook food themselves to their taste, and then also when they are fully dilated, then we transfer them to the labor room where they deliver safely. And then the remaining, we refer them to the other secondary health care for proper management due to some complications that we cannot manage here.
Sai ni taho ni samu kulawa kuma na ga gaskiya canji, na samu lafiya. An bani magani na sha kuma na ji daɗi, na yi murna, na yi farin ciki. Mun gode da wanga abu da an kai. Mun ji daɗi.
We hope that the next step would then be that we get that into routine services so that there is a direct link between deliveries, and if you then end up with a fistula, you would immediately be referred to repair rather than having to wait for us to do we do that 2-3 times a year. But where we are now with the caseloads in Nigeria, we have to continue to have those months where we invite women in simply because of the caseload. But to even have that in a state like Sokoto, where it's one of the lowest rates of access to safe deliveries is in Sokoto state. Contraceptive prevalence rate is only 2%. Maternal mortality rate is one of the highest in the countries. So to have this initiative and this possibility in a state with these indicators is life-changing for women, and we have Spotlight to thank for that.
Safety in a number. From the comfort of a home or wherever you are, anybody, not just survivors, even mandated reporters, can access assistance, support, information by dialing the toll-free number.
The number is 08000 333 333. So it's available nationwide.
We understand that confidentiality is something that is held in high esteem by survivors of any form of violence. We try as much as possible to break that barrier by providing virtual services. Now we have virtual counseling and virtual case management.
Presently we have 2,500 plus cases that have been registered on the platform, the virtual platform, since January 2021. So to reduce the work load, we have 15 virtual case managers presently. And these 15 virtual case managers are on 3-day shifts.
This center was established to help us during the COVID-19 that people couldn't move during the pandemic.
Even before having interface with an individual, survivors can start to receive psychosocial support provided via the toll-free line.
One of the problems of gender-based violence in the country at large is the inability for us to prosecute perpetrators of any form of violence depend on the incidence code.
From what I have read, before we started this, there were over 700 cases of gender-based violence which have not been prosecuted in Adamawa state. Mostly if you go to, say, the court to say you want to report, or if you go to the police and they now finally go to court, they will tell you that, okay, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that yes, this person has raped you. And usually in court they will have to ask you, can you confirm or show any evidence of penetration? So that's how we now said, okay, the best thing to do is once we start conducting DNA forensic analysis, the forensic analysis can solve all the questions that are needed in the court.
So staffs of the center and the matron and the police are trained on collecting samples. Also, the forensic lab drops test tubes and other materials that are needed for taking samples from the survivor. So when the samples are collected, the forensic lab is made aware of this and they come down here and pick it.
It doesn't matter, once we collect the sample, whoever in the society should commit that, the forensic analysis will definitely be able to identify them.
Some of the perpetrators deny defiling or raping a child. So with this DNA investigation, at least we will be able to nail down this perpetrator.
In fact, people know about, they are knowing again about the forensic lab and how it can help them to get justice.
We also understand that one of the reasons why women are prone to gender-based violence or susceptible to gender-based violence is the inability for them to have skills that provide for them.
We have conducted a lot of activities on the skill acquisition for fistula survivors and gender-based violence survivors.
There's a vocational skill acquisition center that equips these women within a time frame. We have various forms of skill acquisition such as tailoring, hair making, bead making.
Of course, it is flexible and allows for other skills like bag making and shoe making to be integrated into the system.
This is one of the unique things about the STEM flagship program. It is not an open opportunity to everybody. It focuses on women and girls that have survived sexual and gender-based violence, so we prioritize them. These women and girls are identified, they are interviewed, and or recruited and enrolled into a bag making academy.
Pass through the training, they are feeding us, giving us food, transportation, as in, they make everything easy for us. It has changed my story a lot. It changed everything about me have changed. The boldness in me, because before I can't be able to have a friend, I can't be able to express myself deep down. As in the area of taking care of my children, I can be able to take care of my children.
The sustainability, government ownership, because one thing is getting support and the next one is how do we sustain that. That is one. We are working towards that as a government.
Sustainability is very critical, because this is a big project, and I think it would be a disservice to Lagosians if UNFPA wraps up and the whole program folds up. So even at the inception stage, we started to contemplate how we can sustain this initiative. And if you notice, where the officers are located is very strategic. They are placed inside the command control center. So we have now integrated response to sexual and gender-based violence into the state's emergency response. That's the number one sustainability initiative. The second one is that we've embedded it in our budget. So the payment of staff, the toll-free line has also been embedded into our budget for 2023. So that if UNFPA closes or ends this project, the project will still be very, very, very much operational.
Allow me to end with quoting the wife of the Vice President, who I recently had the pleasure of hosting on an event to end gender-based violence. She made us painfully aware that 1 in 3 women in Nigeria, 1, 2, 3, every third woman we meet is a survivor of gender-based violence. We need to stop gender-based violence now.
End gender-based violence now.
End gender-based violence now.
A dakatar da cin zarafin mata.
End gender-based violence now.
End gender-based violence now.
End gender-based violence now.
End gender-based violence now.
End gender-based violence